In 2016, California wife and mother Sherry Papini disappeared for 22 days. When she was found, she told authorities a detailed account of being kidnapped and tortured. Years later, in a stunning twist, Papini pled guilty to making false statements about what happened to her, setting off a media firestorm. Now, for the first time, Sherry Papini is telling her side of the story and revealing shocking new information. Sherry Papini, Caught in a Lie, an ID documentary event, Monday, May 26th at 9 on ID. Set your DVR. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 236 of the True Crime All the Time podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
You and I are both playing a little hurt.
We are.
While we're taping our episodes this week, but we'll be okay.
We will.
And hopefully we can bring the same energy that we normally do. Gibbs, at the time this episode comes out, you and I will be on our way back from CrimeCon.
We will be.
And so hopefully we will have met a bunch of fans. I know we will. I don't know why I'm saying hopefully.
Yeah.
We have every time we've gone. We've had a good time.
It'll be nice to be there and be nice to get back to, home.
It always is, right?
It is.
It's nice to go. And then come Sunday, man, I am ready to board that plane.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you are because you always fly first class and you always put me back in steerage.
Full of it.
I'm always back in steerage.
So full of it.
Like back by the luggage stuff.
So we will have some updates probably next week, if anything out of the ordinary went down. We've got some shout outs to give. Let's start with Patreon. We had Mandy Davis jump out at our highest level.
Hey, Mandy.
Stephanie Darby.
What's going on, Darby?
Carrie D. Carteret.
Hey, D. Carteret.
And that's just a fun name to say.
It is. It sounds elegant.
If elegant, fancy, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Peggy Hill.
Hey, Peggy.
Natasha White jumped out at our highest level.
Well, thank you, Natasha.
Cassie Stingle.
What's going on, Cassie?
Amanda jumped out at our highest level.
Appreciate that, Amanda.
Madison Wheelock.
Well, that's Wheelock.
It is, because that's exactly what I just said.
Yeah.
Karina Kyle.
Hey, Karina.
Jilliana Dulaney.
What's going on, Dulaney?
Audra Johnson.
Hey, Audra.
Foy Fulton.
What's up, Foy?
Marie Adkins.
Hey, Marie.
Janae Young.
Appreciate that, Janae.
Renee Bullard jumped out at our highest level.
What's going on, Renee?
Tammy Gibson.
What's going on? Gibby song.
Part of the Gibson clan.
Yeah.
Chad.
Hey, Chad.
Michael Weeks.
Hey, Michael.
Katie Dew.
Well, better than don't.
Spelled like Mountain Dew.
I see that, yeah.
Danielle Hill.
Hey, Danielle.
Emma Blakemore.
Appreciate that, Emma.
And last but not least, Sean O'Shea.
Hey.
So we appreciate all that new
We
support.
do. Thanks, Sean.
And if we go back into the vault, Gibbs, this week we selected Ellie Rawson.
Hey, Ellie.
Ellie's been with us a long time, so appreciate the new support, the continued support. We had some great PayPal donations from Linda Stevenson,
Appreciate that, Linda.
Lindsay Maiden,
Hey, Maiden.
Massage by Rhonda.
I need a good massage.
I do too, man. And Aubrey Eldridge.
Well, thank you, Aubrey.
So thanks to all of you as well. Gibbs, right now on True Crime All the Time Unsolved, we have an episode out on the kidnapping of Virginia Piper. So we're headed back to the early 70s.
Yeah, up in Minnesota. It's going to be a really good case to listen to. It's one of those ones that it has an interesting twist towards the end.
Yeah, that I think is going to grab everyone. So make sure you check that out. All right, buddy, are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time?
I'm ready.
We are talking about the murder of Elyse Pahler. And this is a case that is known by a number of different, I won't say monikers, but, you know, some people refer to this as the Slayer band murders. Many outlets report that this is the inspiration for the movie Jennifer's Body.
Oh, yeah.
Which I've never seen.
I have.
You have. We talked about it. So if anybody's seen that movie, because I do know what it's about, I've just not seen it, we're in for a rough road here. Elyse Pahler was just 15 years old, a freshman in high school, when her life ended in one of the most brutal and horrific ways possible. But it's really Gibbs the reason why that grabbed so many people, made the headlines, made all the papers and the various news shows. Royce Casey, Jacob Delashmutt, and Joseph Fiorella were part of a band that they called Hatred. So this was the name of their band, but it was inspired by the death metal band Slayer. Now, Slayer is not a band that I'm familiar with at all. It's not in my playlist. I don't think I've probably ever heard a Slayer song in my life. What about you?
I think I might have heard one before, but I couldn't recall what it was.
Yeah, I mean, to my understanding, Slayer is not something you would hear or would have heard on the radio. We'll talk about some of the lyrics of some of Slayer's songs, but what happened was these three kids felt that they needed to sacrifice a virgin with blonde hair and blue eyes in order to please Satan so that they could become professional musicians. I mean, this is really what they thought.
They did. They really believed this.
I mean, we're hearkening back to, who was it? Robert Johnson, who sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads, allegedly, that story, so that he could become this famous musician. I think many people continue to struggle to understand how three people could come together to commit such a terrible crime against an innocent girl. And at the time, Gibbs, many parents blamed this type of music, right? This death metal music. They blamed the lyrics. They blamed violent media for causing teenage boys to feel these type of urges, the urges to murder and hurt other people.
I definitely remember all that uproar when that occurred.
And I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along. It got to a fever pitch in the 80s and then into the 90s. I remember that because of the type of music I was listening to at the time.
Yeah.
I remember when they started putting the labels.
Censorship?
Yeah. On, CDs and things like that. Elyse Pahler lived in Arroyo Grande, California. Arroyo Grande was praised as an ideal family area, but in the 1990s, it started to make the headlines because of a rash of teen violence. Elyse was the oldest of four children. Her siblings are Jenny Lee, Ryan, and Christina. She was active in the church, and she was very gifted in the arts. Her obituary read, she loved God, his beautiful world, and loved her friends and large family. Elyse was also a talented tennis player, and she was in the newspaper for winning an award at a local tournament. She liked art, poetry, and she very much liked designing her own dresses. Elyse had a dream of being an actress someday. She was a good daughter, but I think like a lot of kids her age,
she got in a little trouble.
Yeah, I mean, she dabbled in drugs a little bit. I mean, I don't know how many of us can say that we didn't try this or that, namely pot.
Yeah,
I mean, let's just face it.
It's hard to avoid some peer pressure in those age groups.
Yeah. And I think that's probably what she did. Now, Elyse knew Jacob Delashmutt and Joseph Fiorella because they rode the same bus. Joseph was 14, Jacob was 15, Royce was 16, and he went to a different school. Heather Peterson, a former student at Arroyo Grande High School, told the Hanford Sentinel that Elyse wasn't popular. she was mostly known for hanging out with kids who used drugs and worshiped Satan. So I think this is something else we're going to see in this episode, right? Some people had some not so flattering things to say about Elyse. Now, her family would vehemently deny some of these types of things. Yeah, she might have smoked a little pot, but they're not saying that she was into all this other stuff. A lot of the kids at the school knew about the Three Boys death metal band, Hatred. And, from what I understand, Gibbs, these three boys were looked at as strange because of this obsession they had with death metal and Satanism.
I think a lot of people avoided them.
Yeah. I think back to high school, and granted, there are some things, probably quite a few things I would change about some of my actions in high school and how I treated certain people. I always stuck up for people that were being picked on. But there were some groups, I'll be honest about this, that, I didn't really identify with. I didn't try to hang out with because I had my friends and we had our interests. And then you had other kids who were more into heavy metal. I don't even think I knew what death metal was back in the day, but that just wasn't something I was interested in. So I wasn't looking to hang out with those type of people. A lot of people said that it seemed like Elyse didn't have many friends. And that's why they thought she was drawn to the boys, because they showed interest in her. She wanted to fit in with them, so she pretended to share some of their interests. Okay, that can happen.
Sure can.
I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying that's what some people have said they believe happened. The three boys plotted her murder for over a month. And I guess they talked about it while they practiced their death metal music for their band Hatred. And I do think it's important somewhat to talk about the differences between death metal and heavy metal. They're not the same. And I think a lot of people assume that they are. This death metal, from what I gathered, Gibbs, is kind of a subgenre that really kind of focuses in on violence, murder, and the occult.
Oh, for sure. The occult. Yeah.
I mentioned it, right? They were inspired, these three boys, by the band Slayer. And Slayer especially often sang about murder and Satanism, just to give you a couple of examples of some of their lyrics. Homicidal maniac, trapped in mortal solitude, lift the gleaming blade, slice her flesh to shreds, watch the blood flow free. Okay. This is not lollipops and unicorns we're talking about here. This is not Pat Boone by any stretch of the imagination.
Definitely not Pat Boone. There you go.
You're talking about killing a female.
Sure you are. Yeah.
In those lyrics.
Yeah.
Joseph Fiorella also had some books on Satanism. And a lot of people said that, really he showed the most interest in murder. Joseph and Jacob decided that they wanted to sacrifice Elyse because she was blonde, had blue eyes, and she was a virgin. The San Francisco Gate reported that they thought this would make her murder, quote, the ultimate sin against God, and give them tickets to hell.
First class is what they probably thought.
Well, first of all, why do you want a ticket to hell? I don't understand that, but if you're going to hell, how are you going to be this great musician?
Well, it's a good question for them, huh?
During this time, they also stalked Elyse to figure out where she lived and when she might be vulnerable. Like other kids their age, these three boys, they smoke marijuana, but they also use some hard drugs like meth and LSD. And a lot of people have made the connection or the comment that, okay, these are hard drugs, probably influence their decisions, their behaviors.
Yeah, that was not the typical party drugs, right? I get it. Kids would do marijuana, but meth, LSD?
Yeah, was meth even around when you and I were? I don't remember meth, and I certainly have never tried it. I know LSD's been around for a long, long time, but
that's some pretty harsh stuff.
And according to Royce Casey, they had planned to kill Elyse before, and they did enact part of their plan. Joseph Fiorella, Jacob Delashmutt, and another teen named Travis Williams almost killed Elyse in the summer of 1995. They got her out of her house, walked her to a spot on the mesa where there was a ravine. And one of the boys pretended to fall to get her to go to the bottom of the ravine. That was when Joseph tossed Travis a knife, and this would be the exact same knife Gibbs, it's a hunting knife that he would later use to kill Elyse. Travis just stood there, and I think he later said that he was just too scared. He couldn't do it.
Right.
But Joseph and Jacob chanted at him, do it, do it.
Well, and I think Elyse just thought, I think they're just playing with me. They're just joking around.
Yeah, because she didn't report the incident. And so you can only kind of surmise that she must have thought it was a joke. Oh, they don't mean me any harm. Or else you would think she would have reported it. It was on July 22nd, 1995, that Elyse left her home to hang out with the boys, Joseph, Jacob, and Royce. They told her they would give her some weed if she went with them. They went to a eucalyptus grove on the Napomo Mesa, a quarter mile from Elyse's house. And allegedly, the boys thought this grove was an altar to Satan. And Gibbs, it was at this spot that they held Elyse down, stabbed her to death, and then raped her corpse. So if we go back to that morning, we know that Elyse spent the first part of her day with her aunt, Tina Rollins. They were at Tina's house making dress patterns. Tina told the Times Press recorder that Elyse was a gifted seamstress, and she could make a pattern without measuring anything. And that's an amazing skill to have, to be able to make your own clothes. I wish my kids had that skill.
I make my own clothes sometimes.
I know you do.
Yeah.
You're very gifted seamstress.
Yeah. Just really shouldn't wear them out because they never line up right.
Yeah, but you could wear them around the house and stuff.
Yeah, they're sort of comfortable.
And when Elyse left her home that evening, that was the last time her aunt ever saw her alive. That night, Elyse watched the movie Paint Your Wagon with her family. Doesn't really seem like a movie that a 15-year-old would really be interested in watching.
I can't remember that movie.
Paint Your Wagon is like an old Western, I think.
Oh, yeah?
I could never get my 15-year-old to watch a Western. I can't usually get her to watch something past like the 2000s.
Yeah.
They think that's ancient.
And they really hate the stuff I've been watching lately then.
Me and you both.
Yeah.
I think you and I both have been on the Turner classic movies.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
So at around 10 p.m., Elyse received 2 phone calls, and apparently she slammed down the receiver and announced to everyone, "I'm tired, I'm going to bed." And Elyse's father later told the Washington Post that he regretted not questioning her a little bit that night. He said, "I looked in her eyes. I knew there was something coming down the pike. I knew there was something else there. I should have gone out the back door. I should have snuck out and made sure." And again, you and I talk about this a lot, Gibbs. Parents' guilt, right? After, obviously, a child ends up being murdered, all of that, what if? What could I have done? Why didn't I do this? And if I had done this, would it have changed the outcome?
Sure. And you're always going to question yourself and ask them.
And you're going to beat yourself up repeatedly. That's tough.
Nonstop.
15 minutes later, she put pillows under her covers and she snuck out of the house. No one really knows exactly what time she met up with the 3 boys. When they met at the Grove, they smoked together. Sources are pretty inconsistent on whether she smoked weed freely or if they forced her to smoke. I think most people are of the opinion that she went willingly to smoke marijuana with these boys. obviously not having any idea that they were planning to murder her. But after they smoked, the three forced Elyse by knife point to walk to a secluded area filled with trees. It was Jacob who initiated the murder by strangling Elyse with his belt. Royce Casey held her down, and Joseph Fiorella pulled out a hunting knife and stabbed her in the neck. Then Jacob stabbed her, followed by Royce. And Gibbs, this was extremely brutal. I mean, they stomped on her neck as they were killing her. The forensic pathologist later determined she had 12 stab wounds, but none of them were fatal, meaning she slowly bled to death. And according to Royce later, as they stabbed her, Elyse called out for her mom and she prayed.
So tragic.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. And as a mother to find that out later.
And this wasn't very far from her house at all.
No, it wasn't. She died about 1/8 of a mile from the safety of her home. The Washington Post reported that the boys killed her at the edge of the grove, then dragged her to the middle to leave her there to die. The boys never testified on their own behalf, and they all have given differing accounts of what really happened. We'll talk about why that is later. But as I mentioned, after Elyse died, they returned and raped her corpse. And apparently this was something they had planned to do all along. You know, in the planning leading up to her murder, this was a part of it. They knew they were going to do. Accounts differ from the three on whether they raped her while she was still alive as well. So the next day, July 23rd, Elyse wasn't home. Her parents got worried. They launched a search campaign. And as we've seen in a number of cases, Gibbs, police initially believed that Elyse was a troubled teen who ran away. They told the Pahlers there really wasn't much they could do. And I think like any parents would be, her parents were devastated.
Well, that's not what you want to hear from the police.
It's really not. I mean, you want to hear that we'll find her. We'll do everything in our power to bring her back home to you. And if something bad has happened, we'll do everything in our power to figure out who did it. The family knew, Gibbs, that Elyse would not have run away. First of all, she left home without taking any clothes, a toothbrush, or even shoes. Yeah, I get it. Some kids run away. It happens. But wouldn't you imagine that you're working up to that point, you've been mulling it over at least some period of time.
Yeah.
And during that time, you're going to put some things together.
You're going to have some type of backpack ready to go.
You're not just going to leave home with nothing.
You're going to need some essentials for the road.
And it seems to me as though the police would look at that as a sign that, okay, this girl didn't just run away. Something has happened. We need to jump into action. We need to start looking for her.
The parents at one point actually talked to the boys.
Yeah, they did. They spoke with all three boys and they told Elyse's family that they believe she ran away. So basically for months, the family had no leads. It doesn't sound like they had a lot of help from police and they had no answers to where their daughter could be. All right, Gibby, let's take a quick break to talk about Best Fiends. We've been talking about it for quite a while now. So if you haven't tried it, what are you waiting on? You know, for me, Best Fiends is a great escape, a great palate cleanser in between all of the research that we do for our cases. You know, it kind of makes my brain feel like I'm swimming a couple of laps in the pool, riding my bike around the neighborhood. I'm exercising my brain, and that's a good feeling. Best Fiends is a matching puzzle game, but it's so much more. You're not repetitively just smashing buttons one after the other. It's a mobile puzzle game that always leaves your brain feeling refreshingly challenged. It's almost too much fun. It's one of those games that's really hard to put down, but that's a good thing because Best Fiends has literally thousands of fun puzzles to solve, and they're always adding something new. I love the cute characters that you get to collect, and for me, it's always about getting to that next level. I love that challenge. They're updating the game constantly, so there's always something new to explore. Download the 5-star rated puzzle game Best Fiends free today on the App Store or Google Play. That's Friends without the R, Best Fiends. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. This is a service that I use, so I can speak from experience. I've been extremely happy with what BetterHelp has to offer. Sometimes I just need to talk to someone. This is not a crisis line. It's not self-help. This is professional counseling done securely online. You can log on to your account anytime and send a message to your counselor. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses, but to me, the best part of it is that you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, so you won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room again. BetterHelp makes it easy to change counselors if needed, and it's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. So visit their website and read their testimonials that are posted daily. Visit BetterHelp.com/TCAT. That's better, HELP, and join the over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. True Crime All the Time listeners get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/TCAT. Jacob was expelled from Arroyo Grande High School in September 1995. He was also expelled from a second school for drug use. He left school in February 1996 to be homeschooled. Royce attended a different school, as we mentioned, and he had minimal behavioral problems. I don't think anything to the level that Jacob had. But I think, Gibbs, what's interesting is that Elyse's murder wasn't the only disturbing incident of teen violence in Arroyo Grande that year. Travis Williams, who we already mentioned, right? He was the boy who almost killed Elyse, and a teen named Tommy Trauber. They broke into the house of a woman named Mabel Agueda, and they shot her in the head. Joseph Fiorella's older brother, Anthony, was charged with murdering a 15-year-old. He had run from the police and was nowhere to be found at the time of Elyse's murder. 2 other teens in the area broke into a woman's home and beat her with a bat. Now, thankfully, this woman survived the attack. Sheriff Ed Williams stated that the murders were an anomaly and didn't represent the children of Arroyo Grande.
It certainly wasn't looking good.
No, I mean, I think as a community, this is not what you want to see happening. You have a number of young people who are committing some extremely violent acts, including murder. And they don't even know about the 3 boys yet and what happened to Elyse. On December 25th, 1995, the Pahler family gathered at their family ranch and prepared Christmas dinner. They all waited for a call from Elyse or for her to show up at the door. They had recently received a tip that she was still alive and traveling with a carnival in Colorado, and that she might call them on Christmas Day. But it never happened.
That's a strange tip.
Yeah, and you wonder where it came from. Sure. You know, was it someone involved trying to throw off the investigation? Was it somebody playing with the family, which we've seen a number of times?
Sadly.
It's sickening, but we know that people get some kind of perverse enjoyment with tormenting the families of missing children, missing and or murdered children. But I think even without the tip, Christmas would be such a special time that you would, I think, build up this hope that, okay, she's been gone a while. If she's going to come back, it's Christmas, right? Christmas is a special day. This was a religious family. She was a religious person. She's going to knock on that door and walk on through, and everything's going to be okay. David Pahler told Napomo's Adobe Press, "You want to find your child alive or dead. To not know what's happened to a loved one is a terrible thing. I remember getting up at 3 a.m. and staring out the window into the darkness, wondering where to find her. He insisted that it was not like Elyse to run away. He knew something terrible happened to her, but law enforcement refused to listen. For 8 months, Gibbs, Elise's body was in the eucalyptus grove on the Napomo Mesa until Royce Casey approached the police and confessed. And apparently after the murder, he converted to Christianity and he began to feel this overwhelming sense of guilt. He confessed what he had done to a priest who urged him to turn himself in. So basically, he came forward because of his religious convictions. But I think he has also said he came forward because he thought Joseph and Jacob wanted to murder again.
So a twofold.
Yeah,
right.
A couple of different reasons. But, he said they had promised him before that Elyse would not be the only one. There would be others. And I think at some level, Royce probably feared that he would be next because apparently after the murder, he tried to distance himself. He worried they might literally follow one of the Slayer lyrics, which was, if you're not with us, you may no longer exist.
Yeah. Well, I think in general, it's pretty much a criminal creed, all for one and one for all.
Well, and I think, you have to look at Royce. He knows exactly what these guys are like and, how much they were into these lyrics and they were, almost kind of living by them. So, I see where he might have been a little fearful. On March 14th, 1996, Royce Casey led the police to Elise's body. Now, he did place most of the blame on Joseph and Jacob, who he said planned the entire murder. All three were arrested and charged with first-degree murder that very same day.
I wonder if the reason that no one could smell her decaying body while she was missing was because the grove that she was in, those eucalyptus, am I saying that right?
Eucalyptus?
Yeah.
Trees?
Trees.
So you're thinking that maybe there was a scent to the trees that may have masked the smell of decay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It could have also very well have been that this was a remote area that no one really visited or something like that. But you could be onto something. I do think that Royce's arrest was pretty surprising to his community because most people thought he was a pretty good kid. I mentioned it. He went to a different school. He didn't have a lot of the same behavior problems that the others did. Now, the arrests of the other two were not surprising at all because of their record and, their track record. An investigator asked Royce why they killed Elyse. He responded by saying, it was to receive power from the devil to help us play guitar better. The investigator told the San Luis Obispo Tribune, by making this perfect sacrifice to the devil, they would gain more craziness or nuts, as he called it. That would make them play harder, play faster. And by making this perfect sacrifice to the devil, it might help them go, quote, professional.
Which it never did.
No, obviously it didn't. But you and I cover a ton of murders. And we always talk about the reasons behind murders or why people think they need to kill or why they do kill. There's never a good reason to commit a cold-blooded murder. But Gibbs, this has to be the dumbest reason for thinking that you need to take someone's life that I've ever heard. Because you want to be better at playing guitar? You want your band to be better and more successful? And you think a sacrifice to Satan is going to make that happen?
So that's how little they valued life, these three guys.
Yeah, that the success of their band was more important than the life of a 15-year-old girl. The San Luis Obispo Tribune reported that Royce told the police they wanted to kill Elyse because she had blonde hair and blue eyes. She was a virgin. They thought she would be a perfect sacrifice for the devil. So I mentioned that they were all arrested. Joseph Fiorella and Jacob Delashmutt confessed soon after their arrests. The coroner positively identified Elyse's body. On March 20th, 1996, her remains were badly decomposed. And obviously, you know they're going to be if they don't find her until 8 months later. No rape exam could be done on her body, but the coroner did confirm that there were signs of rape. Her parents provided dental records to help identify her, but they also identified her from a red bracelet she was wearing. And it was not long after this that the sheriff's office released the names of the 3 boys. Over the next year, all 3 boys pleaded no contest to the charges, and they were sentenced to 26 years to life for murder. So, by pleading guilty, there was no jury trial. And because there was no trial, most of the official documents in this case are under seal and have never been released.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they were all minors at the time that the murder occurred. So I can see where maybe that was the reason for everything to be sealed. Betsy Leo, Joseph's mother, told investigators that Joseph told her Royce and Jacob raped Elyse's body. One of Jacob's friends testified that he bragged about going back to the eucalyptus grove to rape her. All 3 of the boys told at least 2 people about the murder, but the friends dismissed them because they thought they were lying.
You know, why not at least make that phone call to the authorities? Say, this is what we were hearing. We don't believe it, but we know she's still missing.
Yeah, there's a part of me that thinks 14, 15-year-olds, they just don't think that way. A lot of them, right? They're always joking around. So somebody says this and they think, oh, this is just another joke from so-and-so. But you're right. You would like to think that they would take such a serious comment a little more seriously and at least tell parents. And then parents could then make the decision, hey, all right, let's get in touch with investigators and just let them know what is being said.
Yeah. They keep hearing this phrase, eucalyptus grove, a few times. Maybe they're like, hey, let's go check that grove out.
Yeah, because if you hear it once, you might check it out. You hear it from multiple sources, you are definitely going to go check that out because that's a serious lead. Betsy Leo blamed the city for letting her down while she sought help for her son's problems. She said law enforcement failed to help her when she told them that she couldn't control her children anymore. She said that her older son, Anthony, tried to kill Joseph at home before Elyse's murder. So sounds like a lot of stuff going on in that house. She called the sheriff's department to have him arrested. They held him in jail, and apparently Betsy refused to pick him up. She said that she felt there was nothing more she could do to help him. But she was forced to take him home when the police threatened her with a child abandonment charge. The police referred Anthony to the probation department. And we've mentioned it already, Gibbs, but Anthony later went on to murder another teenager and run away. So, I think this is a serious issue when you have a mother who has teenage boys that she cannot control. What do you do? Most teenage boys grow up to be bigger and stronger than their moms.
Sure, yeah.
At some point. Kind of hard to discipline them if they have no respect for the mother. They have no respect for the law. That's a terrible situation.
She's definitely not in a good spot.
On May 3rd, 1996, Judge Michael Duffy issued a gag order to all the attorneys involved with the case. All 3 boys were charged with murder, but later that month, DA Dan Bouchard amended the charges to include rape, torture, and conspiracy to murder. So I think after that, Gibbs, the boys were looking at being sentenced as adults. But really, the details in this case didn't come out until the end of February 1997, when county investigators testified at Royce and Jacob's preliminary hearings. Superior Court Judge Christopher Money said the three committed murder for one of the stupidest reasons ever. And I think I said something similar to that. I think everybody looks at this case and thinks it's so dumb that these thoughts even entered their mind.
Yeah, it's so idiotic.
All right, Gibbs, let's take our last break to talk about Upstart. You know, if you're carrying a credit card balance month after month, you're not the only one out there. High interest rates make it very hard to pay off your debt, but Upstart can help. Join the thousands of happy borrowers who made that final payment. Upstart is the fast and easy way to pay off your debt with a personal loan all online. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high interest debt, or funding personal expenses. Over 500,000 people have used Upstart to get a simple, fixed monthly payment. With a 5-minute online rate check, you can see your rate up front for loans between $1,000 to $50,000. And you can receive funds as fast as one business day after accepting your loan. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/TCAT. That's upstart.com/TCAT. Don't forget to use our URL to let them know we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/TCAT. Don't let allergy season slow you down. Get common allergy meds for as little as $15 with GoodRx. So you and your family, pets included, can stop allergy symptoms before they start. GoodRx is free and easy to use. Just search for your prescription on the website or the app, compare prices, and get a free coupon to show your pharmacist. Save at over 70,000 local pharmacies nationwide, including Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Publix, Kroger, and many more. Check GoodRx before every trip to the pharmacy to save up to 80% on both brand and generic medications. And did you know GoodRx rewards you for saving money too? Join GoodRx Rewards today and earn points every time you use a coupon. Remember, GoodRx is not insurance, but works whether you have insurance or not. And it could be your insurance copay price. I've been using GoodRx for years, and I can't tell you how many times I have saved money even with my insurance. Stop allergies before they start and save big on allergy medications this season with GoodRx. Go to goodrx.com/TCAT. That's goodrx.com/TCATT. Elyse Walter, Elise's grandmother, said outside the courthouse, "I wish I had known what they were planning. I would have wrung their scrawny little necks." I don't doubt it. I bet Granny would have opened up a can of whoop ass.
Oh, I'm sure she would have.
If she had any idea what these boys were planning on doing to her granddaughter. Elise's murder shocked the town. I mean, that's probably pretty safe to assume. But then when people began to find out that her murder was part of a satanic sacrifice, that became an even bigger shock. Andrew Watt, who knew Royce Casey from school, told SF Gate, "It shocked the shit out of me. Me and him were pretty good friends. He was a calm, mellow dude, especially compared to Fiorella and Delashmutt." According to Andrew, Arroyo Grande became weirder over the years because of too many hard drugs. He said, pot's one thing, but we're talking crack and crystal meth and lots of it.
Those are some really, really bad drugs at any age, but especially at that young of an age.
Yeah, 14, 15, 16 years old. Royce's defense attorney said the allegations were exaggerated to inflame public opinion and that the prosecution had no factual support. And I'm not sure how he's able to make this statement. You know, all three of these kids confessed and talked about the reasoning behind it. So, okay, you're either saying that all three of them are lying about why they committed the murder, or there's definitely support there to back up the allegations of satanic worship, sacrifice, things like that. Now, is it going to inflame public opinion? Sure it is.
So, absolutely.
I can't imagine too many towns across America that would not be up in arms after finding out that a 15-year-old girl was essentially sacrificed so that some boys could make a deal with the devil to be able to play guitar better.
Yeah. I'm sure it was a big topic in a lot of churches on Sunday also.
Oh, I no doubt. Because pastors, preachers, they're going to use that. They talk about it anyway.
Sure they do.
But now you've got a real world example of something that tragically has happened in your town. They're going to be all over that. In 1996, Elyse's parents filed a lawsuit against Slayer. And this really catapulted the case into the national spotlight. They said the band's music incited murder. They named Slayer and record labels as the defendants and sought monetary damages as well as an end to the practice of marketing violent music towards juveniles. They also started the Elyse Marie Pahler Foundation to protect children and help families and law enforcement locate missing children by creating computer profiles of each child. The foundation worked to raise awareness of death metal music and the misogynistic lyrics. Joseph Fiorella was sentenced to 26 years to life on March 7th, 1997. Royce Casey was sentenced to the same on December 2nd, 1997. And Jacob Delashmutt was sentenced to 26 years to life on February 2nd, 1998. Now, Jacob issued an apology in court and said, quote, "I am tremendously sorry for what happened to your daughter. I did not rape and torture her, and I was not involved in any satanic ceremony or ritual. The reason why Elyse was murdered, and this is a secret that only 5 people know about, is because Joe Fiorella was obsessed with Elyse and he killed her."
What's a bombshell to drop?
Yeah, it's a bombshell. And I think you have to take a step back and look at it. Is it true? Or is Jacob setting something up for later down the road? Maybe when it comes time for him to have a parole hearing, you don't know. But it's a big shift, right? From the original confessions to now saying, it was just Joe. Joe was obsessed with her and he killed her. And there wasn't anything satanic about it.
Right.
I don't know the truth, but I kind of lean towards the latter, that was probably calculated to set things up for down the road. After the boys were sentenced, Elyse's mother urged parents to monitor their children. She told the Santa Maria Times, "What I've been saying to all parents is don't give your adolescents any privacy. You have to know what they are into, who they are friends with, and what they're listening to." She said Jacob's parents didn't care about what their son did, which is why he was able to plan the murder and get away with it for so long. The Pahlers blamed 3 factors for Jacob's behavior: lack of supervision, drug use, and violent music. I get it. I get where she's coming from. We kind of mentioned the guilt, right? Looking back, what could I have done? Well, I could have monitored my child more closely.
Sure.
Now she's saying don't give them any privacy. And I think, when you get into that area, it's a real fine line.
It could work against you.
Yeah, it can work against you in a really bad way. Kids need a little bit of freedom. I mean, yes, could you make your house kind of a lockdown situation at all times? You could. Are you going to have a very unhappy kid or children? Yes. The relationship's probably not going to be great, but are you ensuring their safety as much as you possibly can, I guess, if you go that route?
You just got to think there's got to be some type of good balance.
Yeah, I think there is a good balance. The problem is when something like this happens, what you thought was a good balance didn't work. And so I think that's what she's saying. Slayer never released a statement in response to the murder, but in 1999, their drummer Paul Bostaph made the statement, "They're trying to blame the whole thing on us. That's such bullshit. If you're going to do something stupid like that, you should get in trouble for it." So he's saying, hey, don't blame us. Blame the people that did the stupid acts.
I hear what he's saying.
I do too. I mean, as much as you may not like that type of music and the lyrics and, you know, the crude things that maybe they say about women or hurting women or whatever it is, can you blame them? I think that's the real question. And it goes for everything, right? Do you blame violent movies? Do you blame violent TV shows, video games? We've talked about that quite a bit. I don't think there's any doubt that some people can lose that understanding of what they're seeing on the screen or what they're hearing and what's going on in real life and morph it all together. But by and large, that, you know, it's not the majority, right? A lot of people watch violent movies, listen to music, play video games. They don't go out and kill people. So I don't know. I know there are people on both sides of that fence. On October 31st, 2001, a judge determined that Slayer's lyrics were offensive, but did not incite murder. In his decision, he wrote, "Slayer lyrics are repulsive and profane, but they do not direct or instruct listeners to commit the acts that resulted in the vicious torture murder of Elyse Pahler." Well, I don't think there's any doubt they're repulsive and profane based on just the few that we read. The judge ruled that the music is not harmful to children and the music is protected by the First Amendment. And I get all of that. Now, do I think children of a certain age should be listening to that music? Probably not. In 2001, Jacob Delashmutt told a police officer, "It was harmless at first. We used to smoke weed, play guitar, kick it. I was just into heavy metal music. It gets inside your head. It's almost embarrassing that I was so influenced by the music." He gave statements to the Washington Post and the Guardian for a prison interview. He said that one day Joseph asked him if he'd be down for sacrificing a virgin. Jacob did not take him seriously, so he said, whatever. After the murder, both Jacob and Royce wanted to place the majority of the blame on Joseph Fiorella. So again, you know, you got three people who all participated in this murder. After the fact, that's when all the finger pointing starts, right? That's normally the case.
Well, yeah, why wouldn't they? This is the time to do it because they want to make their maybe future appeal or their parole hearing look better for them.
Yeah, I think it's natural, right? As you sit in prison and you're contemplating this sentence and when your parole hearing is going to come up, okay, do you start to get a little calculating? I imagine you do. And one of the things that you start figuring out is, how do I minimize my role in what happened and at the same time maximize someone else's? That's going to make me look better down the road. I can't get out of what I'm in right now. I'm just looking to the future. Some years later, Joseph and Jacob told Entertainment Weekly that Slayer's music had nothing to do with the murder. They said that the murder was not a sacrifice. But court records show that Jacob told a probation officer he was influenced by Slayer. And when Royce confessed, he said they referred to themselves as Satan's children and talked about killing Elyse in a satanic ceremony. So I think you have just all kinds of different statements that are made over the years and they all contradict each other.
Yeah, they're never the same and they're just really frustrating, actually.
It is. But I also think what you see is the later you go on, the more, okay, it's not Slayer. It wasn't satanic. And on the part of Royce and Jacob, well, we were there, but we weren't the leader. That was Joseph. Gibbs, when you talk about Elyse's family, obviously they suffered greatly after her death. Her dad had trouble maintaining work, and Elyse's mother had various jobs with the school system. On December 23rd, 2013, David Pahler was involved in a road rage incident that was triggered by his PTSD. He was cut off at a light and followed the vehicle to a Rite Aid parking lot. When the driver parked, David yelled and banged on the window. The driver didn't open the door, so he hit it twice with his knee, denting this person's car. Then he opened the door and pulled the driver out. He was charged with battery, but it was dismissed. He pleaded no contest to misdemeanor vandalism. He got probation, a $500 fine, and was ordered to take anger management classes.
Well, that road rage is serious stuff, man.
It is. I've been candid that I've had it from time to time, but we're talking about the father of a murdered child. I'm not saying it's right what he did, because it's not.
But he finally hit that point.
Well, and that's kind of where I was thinking about heading, which is it can't be easy to deal with. And I have no idea what type of counseling, if anything, they went through to try to deal with some of this stuff. You struggle with it for so long. And obviously he did, right? Couldn't keep a job. And it sounds like he did hit his breaking point. He snapped. On March 21st, 2017, the San Luis Obispo County DA's office filed a motion to reimburse the State Victims Compensation Board, which paid almost $35,000 to the Pahlers for funeral costs and counseling. The office also wanted to determine loss of wages and restitution for Elyse's father. In the late 90s, the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation did not collect restitution from people with life sentences, but it was included for Royce and Jacob. But the restitution has never been collected from them. And how could it be? Can't imagine as 14, 15, 16-year-old kids, they had any money going into this thing. And you sure as heck don't make a lot of money in prison.
No.
Working at your job. As we've talked about before, you might have enough to go to the commissary, buy some ramen. And I think even some of those individuals we've talked about, that money's been taken out of their account.
Oh, sure has.
And I have no problem with that. But regardless of what the figure is, it's going to be hard to collect that money. David Pahler wrote in his court declaration from February 2017, "For many months, we suffered through the nightmare of not knowing what happened to Elyse. When her body was finally discovered, I learned that she had been barbarically murdered, and I was consumed with grief. Although the defendants received prison sentences, it did little to ease the horror of what they'd done. The pain of losing my daughter and knowing she suffered will never leave me." Gibbs, before Elyse died, David made somewhere between $75,000 to $100,000 a year as a general contractor. He couldn't keep working, and it was reported that he lost about $500,000. He went on welfare, and eventually the family lost their home. Again, you and I talk about a lot of things that victims' families have to go through.
Sure we do.
And we know there's the grief and the suffering and all of that. We don't often talk about the financial aspect. This guy's got a great job. He's making a lot of money. His daughter's murdered and his whole entire world is turned upside down. Whose wouldn't be? And essentially they end up pretty much destitute, losing the family home.
Just seemed like their problems kept compounding.
Yeah. Well, and that often happens, right? One thing leads to another, which leads to another, all stemming from this horrific tragedy.
Sure.
And it becomes a spiral that you just cannot get out of. Joseph, Jacob, and Royce are held at separate jails in Southern and Central California. The California Department of Correction website provides information on their current status. Joseph Fiorella is now 40 years old and is held at High Desert State Prison. On August 22nd, 2019, he voluntarily waived his right to a parole hearing for 2 years. Then on March 29th, 2021, he waived it for another year. So his next parole hearing is set for July 2022. And the only thing that I can figure out, Gibbs, is that he thought, okay, they're going to turn me down. And once they turn me down, my next parole date or hearing date is going to be set out sometime in the future. And it's going to be a lot longer than 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, so he's trying to get ahead of it?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Or maybe he was thinking, or his attorneys were thinking, you don't want this parole board. You might want to wait and see who the parole board is in the future, and we might have a better chance.
Yeah, it could be. Jacob Delashmutt is now 41. He's held at the Correctional Training Facility. On December 5th, 2017, he was denied parole for 7 years. So again, maybe that plays into what Joseph did. I don't know. December 2024 is the tentative date for his next parole hearing. Royce Casey is now 43. He is held at Valley State Prison. On July 12, 2016, he was denied parole for 5 years. In January 2019, he was approved to advance his next parole hearing, but in July of that year, he was denied parole for 3 years. In 2020, he was approved to advance another hearing. And on March 17th, 2021, Royce was granted parole. So that was just, a couple of months ago. I don't know if he's out yet or if they've set a date for him to be released, but he's going to be released. So if he gets out this year, Gibbs, he'll have done the minimum, which is, 26 years. Now, I think Royce had some things going for him though, right? He is the one that confessed, and that had to buy him some goodwill, I would think, at the with the parole board.
I think it had to.
Because if you think about it, if Royce had not confessed, Elyse's murder might have gone unsolved. It very likely could, because you and I do unsolved cases every week.
Yeah. And the way that her body was rapidly decomposing, I don't know what they would have found evidence-wise.
No, in another 4 months, and another 6 months, a year, animals, scavengers, who knows?
Yeah.
The Pahlers have made it their mission to encourage other parents to monitor what their children are doing, and perhaps more importantly, what kinds of people they spend time with. They encourage parents to take action to prevent more tragedies like Elyse's murder. And, on that, I agree with them. I think you should monitor what your children are doing. I think you should know what types of individuals they're spending time with. I think that's important. So Gibbs, as we wrap up this case, I just still cannot get over the fact that 3 young kids, if you believe their initial confessions and most of the things that came out early on, killed a 15-year-old girl to essentially make a deal with the devil.
Right.
To make them better musicians. I mean, it's just something, and I know we talked about the movie Jennifer's Body. I'm sure that the plot goes somewhere along those lines, right? You've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Yep, pretty similar.
A lot of times I say, well, if you wrote this as a movie script, it would be laughable. Now, if you're going to write a horror movie or, something kind of outlandish, I get that. But if you're going to write like a straight drama where this occurs, would people even think it's plausible? I mean, I guess so, but man, it's so far out there.
Well,
it's so hard to make sense of.
There's some real idiots.
Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's okay to be an idiot. It really is. As long as your idiocy doesn't hurt other people. These three guys, they took their idiocy and ended the life of a young girl.
Yeah. Pointless.
But that's it for our case on the murder of Elyse Pahler. We got some voicemails, Gibbs. You want to check those out?
Let's hear them.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. This is Ashley from Lawrenceville, Georgia. I was just calling in real quick because I had the weirdest thing happen to me. I listen to you guys all the time. Love you guys. Team Gibby. Woohoo! But I was just getting ready at home. My kids and husband were gone. I'm at home by myself. Strange man comes to my door. On the van, it says, Mike Gibson, electrician. We didn't call an electrician. And immediately, I'm just thinking that this is the day that I'm going to die. It was very coincidental. You guys teach me about true crime. I got this guy instantly making me think of true crime at my door. It was just crazy. Love you guys. Keep your own time ticking. Thanks.
You don't think the fact that his name was Mike Gibson, electrician, was crazy? I think that was crazy.
I'll just say this. If someone comes to your door from a van that has the name Mike Gibson on it, you act like you're not home because no good can come from that.
Hey, now.
Just say that right now.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. This is Becky from Alliance, Ohio. I'm not one to normally voicemails, but I just heard the episode with Mike doing the Conway Twitty, and I got to say I switched from Team Gibby to Team Fergie all the way after that one. You guys are awesome. Keep up good work and keep your own time ticking. Bye.
He does have a good voice. I can't deny that.
I finally got a convert, Gibbs.
Yeah, you did.
Finally.
You and your Conway.
The Conway did it.
Hey, darling. This is Tammy from South Carolina. Though you guys don't know me from Adam's House Cat, I feel a little bit of bond with y'all. I've been listening to T-Cat for the last several months and have certainly run the gamut on emotions while listening to y'all. I mean, I've laughed so hard my sides hurt. In the very next breath, I'm sobbing for the victims and the horrible things that they and their families endured. Bless their heart. Y'all handle these cases with a lot of finesse and respect, and I really appreciate that, as I was the victim of a sexual assault when I was a teenager by one of the boys that lived in my neighborhood. No disrespect to any of the other crime podcasts out there, and I certainly have listened to a few, but y'all are number one for me. Anyway, please take care of each other, as I can't even imagine the effect the research and profiling these cases have on y'all. Well, be safe. Love you. Bye.
So thanks so much for the voicemails and the kudos. Yeah, I mean, I think there is a lot of ups and downs, right? As you go through an episode as a listener, for us, Gibbs, during the research, it's kind of the same way. There's a lot of ups and downs, mostly downs, because there's a lot of bad things being researched.
Sure is.
Now, there is some uplifting stuff as well.
Yeah.
The parents set up foundations, or they do this great work in the name of their lost loved one. And so you have some ups and downs, but I think we work hard to ensure that our mental health stays where it should be.
Yeah.
In a good place.
In those appropriate times, we will find a little humor.
Yeah. And that's part of it. Because if we were just down and dirty in the muck all the time,
yeah,
I think it'd be tough for us. And I also think it'd be tough for the listener. We try to lighten it where we can.
Hey guys, this is Lindsay from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Team T-Cat because, who can choose between the two of you? You both just rock. I was just listening to the case. I can't even remember the name because all I could focus on was that it was Clemson University. And I went to Clemson and I loved it, every second of it. I'm an Uber fan. I took the 5-year plan because I just didn't want to leave. It was just that fabulous. Anyway, something that bothered me was that you kind of implied that Clemson had a pretty high sexual assault rate. And then you kind of went into something that, pretty much a lot of colleges, it's a problem at a lot of colleges. But I don't know. That made me sad. Anyway, go Tigers. Love you guys. Listen to you so much. You're the greatest. No other podcast compares. And rock on my Clemson Tigers. All right. Bye, guys.
So she's talking about the Jerry Buck Inman case. And granted, nobody wants to hear anything bad about their university.
Of course not.
And sexual assaults are a problem at every university, it was very prominent in the research that at that point in time, which I think if I remember correctly, was in the mid 2000s, they were experiencing, a high number.
Yeah, a high rate.
Yeah, a high rate of sexual assault. Gibbs, we had one thing in the mailbag. Christopher Maffel sent us a trading card in a protective case, and it looks like any other sports card.
Yeah.
But it's D.B. Cooper.
Cool.
It's so amazingly cool. I've never really seen anything like it. It looks like a sports card, but it's filled with facts about the case.
Did you trade my one card? Is that how you got it?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. The Mike Gibson card?
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd like to have your own card, but you don't want to get to do anything to warrant it. I get it.
Yeah, it was really cool, though.
It's actually really neat, and I'm trying to find out where I can get some more. They're made by Topps, the company that makes sports cards.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm on the lookout for more of them. All right, buddy. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
Inspired by the hit Wondery podcast Against the Odds comes the gripping guidebook, How to Survive Against the Odds, Tales and Tips for Animal Attacks and Natural Disasters. This might just be the most important book you'll ever read. Go inside life or death situations where everyday people survived nature's most extreme scenarios, and learn how you can too. In these tales, you'll hear about the grit, willpower, and know-how needed to endure shipwrecks, alligator attacks, earthquakes, and more. You'll learn from experts, including top doctors, about what happens to your body and mind in life-threatening situations. Plus, important tips on what to do, and equally important, what not to do when faced with a situation that is truly against the odds. Go to survivalguidebook.com to pre-order How to Survive Against the Odds today and get the perfect gift in time for graduation and Father's Day.